Have you ever wondered if you handle the situation properly? I know I have. Well, you're welcome to SIP. Here, we say it properly. And we're looking forward to having you on each episode as we learn together how to say it properly. I am MABEL FOLUKE IRUKERA. See you then. Strangers. Mommy, why do you tell me not to talk to strangers? But when we were walking to the supermarket yesterday, you stopped to talk to the man in the car. Mom was confused about what her response should be. Then she said, the man in the car was asking for directions, and so I just assisted him. You're welcome to say it properly. My name is MABEL FOLUKE IRUKERA, and on this show we learn to say it properly. We learn how to put things in perspective for our children and other family members to understand better. If you have not subscribed to Byronbee TV, which is where we are, please go ahead and do that. And then share as well. It's going to be exciting because you're going to learn so much from this channel. Thank you so much for being here today. And we're going to be talking about strangers. Strangers, like who are strangers? And that's what we're going to be defining today. So like you heard from the little conversation with the girl and her mom, here's mommy saying don't talk to strangers, and they're walking to the supermarket and mommy stops to talk to a stranger in a car. That was confusing for the young girl. And that's how it is for our girls and our boys and our children. Really, many times when we make rules and then we seem to break the rules, that we have to explain things to them better. Who are strangers? And that's where we need to start from. When you're talking to a child, say, don't talk to strangers. Don't take things from strangers. Who are strangers? First and foremost, you need to define who they are. So you can tell your child, a stranger is someone that you do not know. So a stranger is that person that you have never seen, or you have seen a couple of times, but you have never had an interaction with them. That's a stranger. But it doesn't end there. A stranger is also that person who you see quite often that comes to the house, maybe to perform a duty or service, but does not belong to the family. It's not a member of the family or does not live in your house. You don't have much interaction with them. That's a stranger as well. And that's another part that can be confusing to children. Because that delivery man that comes to your house ever so often, or the electricity man that comes to read, you know, the meter. They're so familiar with him, they think it's a family member, but they're not. They're actually strangers. So you need to define that to children carefully for them to understand. So you let them know that that stranger, that person is a stranger, even though you see him often. He comes to the house often, he's always there, he reads the card. But you let them know the person doesn't come to our house, doesn't interact with mommy and daddy inside the house, does not sleep in the house, and so we consider him a stranger. All he's doing is performing a service. So now we've seen that there's two kinds of strangers from the way we defined it. But at the same time, there are some family members that can be strangers. So an uncle visits once in a while, but it does not make that person less of a stranger to that child. At times, all this can be confusing to a child, but the more you talk about it and the more you explain to the child, the easier it is for them to begin to decipher who a stranger is and who a stranger is not. So we'll talk about defining strangers now. That's one. Number two, you need to create a never list for your family. A never list. We have young children growing up in the house. You need to have a never list. Like one, you could say, you never talk to somebody outside the house without an adult present. So that child knows to walk away from an adult that's trying to talk to them if an adult from their own household is not present. Another one could be, you don't go out of the house without an adult. That's something you need to establish with children, because as they grow, they think, oh, I know the familiar road, I just want to go down the road. But we live in a world that is getting more and more scary, where abductions and kidnappings are on the increase. And so we need to protect our children. Very important. And this third one is for my dear teenagers. You know, the teenager thinks it's invincible. Nothing bad can happen to them. They are always, oh no, it's no big deal. It is a big deal if you get kidnapped. And so, teenagers, this is for you. And mom and dad, please reiterate this with our teenagers. They do not leave the house. You never leave the house without telling somebody where you're going, who you're going with, and when you're going to be back. Very important that we let our teenagers, our young adults know this, because of the invincibility that they feel. Nothing can happen to me. I know my way around. So many have gotten lost. So many have been kidnapped. Some have been killed. I pray that, you know, our children listen to this and be able to explain this to them properly. Okay? So that's that part. You can also have on your never list, you never tell anyone your address on the phone. You don't tell anyone your address on the phone. Because you get those phone calls and they're like, yes, I know this is your number. So what's the address? They say I should come and deliver something to you. And then because you heard it's a delivery, you just blot out your address. Please do not do that. If somebody is bringing the delivery to your house, they should have your address. So tell them what? Can you read back the address that you have with you? And I'll confirm. That's the best way to do it. So teach the children from when they're young. Say, no, don't give out your address to anybody, especially not on the phone, and especially when there's no adults around. Another part of it is at times we leave little children in the house. Well, I'm not talking about toddlers. I'm talking about children that are a bit more, a little older. And you tell them, you give instructions to them and say, don't let anybody in. And guess what happens? Someone that they know comes knocking. You have to let them know that it's not just about strangers. Once I say don't let anybody in, it means do not let anybody in. At that point in time, that auntie, that uncle that you're used to is now a stranger until mommy and daddy are around. You must let them understand that. And if your neighbor comes knocking, let your child know. Once you're alone, just go into another room. Because I know that you will not leave that child without a phone and tell the child to call you on the phone when the neighbor cannot hear them. Very important. Stranger anxiety for some of the children. And so I come to this point where I want to say stranger anxiety is when the child is afraid of someone that they're not familiar with. But because the parent is with that person, the parent is like, greet uncle, say hello to auntie. That's okay. You tell them to just say hello and they greet properly, but don't force them into a false relationship with them on the spot. At times, just like you have intuition, that child has an intuition about something as well concerning that person you are forcing them into a relationship with. So, always important to get your child determine who they want to be close to and who they're not comfortable with. Don't force them into a relationship. Don't force them to say, of course, greeting is always important, but don't force them into anything more than that. It's important at all times that we are aware of what our children are comfortable with and what they're not comfortable with. So don't force them into a situation. We're talking about the never list. Another thing on the never list is never walk on the road where you have cars that are parked and there are people in the car. You know, you have a lonely road and you're walking, you're by yourself, and you can see that this car has some people in it, and yet you're going to go walk by them. They can easily pull you inside. So let your child know. And even as adults, it's important that we're aware. We have to have this, sense of safety for ourselves when we're out there too. You see a car that is parked on a lonely road, you're walking and you cross to the other side immediately. You don't stay on that lane. You don't even walk by the car. It's important that you teach your child that and that you do the same as well. Still on the never list, and you can add to this list depending on your situation. You know your home, you know the ages of your children, you know the young adults, you know everybody's characteristics, and you can add, to those peculiar ones. To say, oh, because this child is like this, it means I have to say never to this. But we are giving you the general never list for safety for everybody. The other part here is the never list is, if someone tries to park by you when you're walking, move away. keep moving away if you're by yourself. If you're with an adult, then maybe they can deal with that. But if you're by yourself, tell your child to move away. Tell your child to move away. Someone's trying to park by you, cross safely to the other side. Another thing on our never list is this. Please, never ever be afraid to shout. This is not the time to be polite. Somebody approaches you when you're walking on the road and is trying to do something to you, maybe hold your hand or gag you. It is the time to scream. Let's teach our children what? The gifts, the power of their voices. They have a voice for a purpose, so they can shout when they need to shout. And you know all our children know how to shout anyway. All you have to do is be on the playground or be in the house when they're excited, they can shout. So teach them. If somebody is trying to hurt you, or you think somebody is trying to hurt you, make sure you yell, you scream. The power of the voice is very, very important to teach our children. So the never list for us here, that's it. But you can add to yours, like I said. You know the peculiarity of your family, of your home, your children, the ages and all. So add to your own never list. We're also talking about strangers. Who the strangers are and how we approach this. For instance, even you as an adult, if you see that you're walking on the road, even you're driving and someone keeps following you, the best thing is to drive into or walk into a crowded area. Walk into a filling station, go to the gas station, go into a supermarket where other people are, and make sure you draw the attention of someone to it. Say, there's somebody out there that's following me. I bet you before you get outside, they'll disappear. Because they know they're up to no good. But if there's nothing wrong, the investor would have just gone by themselves. Let's be aware of our environment at all times. What about strangers in the school environment? How do we talk about that? Because our children are used to their teachers, they're used to the staff there. And so they don't realize that those people can actually be strangers as well. So what do you say to them? You say, well, your teacher is your teacher, but your teacher is not allowed to do certain things to you. So your teacher is not allowed to take you out of school. Very important, unless there's a written permission and there are other children going in the school bus. Or we have told you already that the teacher is going to be taking you to a garden today or somewhere or walking to the supermarket. You never leave the school with the teacher or anybody from the school, even though you know them. At that point, they have become strangers. Because we have to look at strangers from different aspects and different situations. We've had situations where a familiar figure goes to the school and just tells the person at the gate, oh, I have come to pick this child. The child comes out and goes with the stranger, and guess what happens later? Shortly after, the parents come in to pick the same child. What happened there? It means that the child was not told what I'm about to tell you now. You must always let your children know who would pick them up from school. And tell them if there's an emergency, the school will be contacted. Whoever is going to pick them up would have been communicated to the school. Many situations have occurred that we've heard about where one person or the other that they know comes into the school and takes the child away. Just like that. It's important that our children know. It's very important that they know that even though you're used to this person, if mommy and daddy do not tell you that Uncle A or Auntie B will pick you from school on this day, you say, no, Auntie, I can't go with you. There's nothing wrong with saying no. They're in a safe environment where they can call out to a teacher, to the head of school, to the security, to say, no, I can't go with this auntie because mommy did not tell me. Once again, we go to the power of the voice, which is one of the things that we have to consistently teach our children. Use your voice. Use your voice to make a point. Use your voice to keep yourself safe. Very important. I'm looking at all the points we have written here and just looking at, how about gifts? Gifts. Say, oh, you're such a sweet girl. Here, take this amount of money. Oh, I give you a candy, I give you chocolates. Do not take this from strangers. Do not take gifts from strangers. And the stranger includes anyone that you might even know as a child. You're telling your child that now. That you might even know but your parent is not present. I'll tell you something that happened to my siblings and I when we were younger. We were in the house and our neighbor came in and had puff, meat pie, sausage rolls, very hot. I will never forget. And she brought it. She said, "Oh, I went out and I got this for you." We're very excited, of course. And she gave us she gave it to us, and the oldest person in the house was my auntie. This auntie was just a few years older than me, but by culture she was just auntie. And she said, "You know, if we don't eat it, it's hot right now. Let's eat it when it's hot." Because she wanted to eat it as well. And so we all sat down and we devoured it. Every bit of it, the meat pie, the sausage, the puff, we ate everything. And 1 hour or so later, my mother comes in. And we say, "Oh, Auntie Toyi downstairs came and she brought us these pastries." And my mother says, "Oh, we ate it." I can't begin to tell you what I went through that day because I will never forget. So that's a lesson there. I don't take this from strangers, even if it's our neighbors. We'll collect it and you will keep it until your parents come. So tell your children that. If there's an adult in the house, they can collect it, but they must not touch it. They can't eat it. They can't use it. It might not be edible until an adult in that household shows up, especially the parents. Okay? So that's one part of it too. There are scenarios that you can paint for your child. You can paint different scenarios. You know your environment. You know the kind of school they're in. You know what they do. You know the way your children think. You know the kind of friends that they have. And so what you do is paint scenarios and just say, "Hey, you know what, Abba, what if this happens? What if that happens? What would your reaction be? What would you do?" When you do that, you'll be able to hear the things that Abba will say to you. And then when Abba says, you can say, "Well, Abba, next time you do this," or, "Oh, Abba, that was excellent. That's the right way to react to that." It's important that we consistently test our children on what they're able to understand by strangers and their reaction to them and what they should do with them and what they should not do. I talked about using their voices already. Very important. Please integrate that with your children. They need to use their voices. Using your voice is something that is we're going to talk about in other situations too. Because many people would have been saved if they just use their voice at that time. But consistently what happens is that the child is just afraid. So afraid that they have never been told to use their voice, and so what happens? They don't bother. They just kind of submit to this person who's a predator, and the person takes them away. I'm looking at all the situations and I'm trying to come up with them. What kind of thing, what else can you say to your child? Sit down with them, ask them questions. Ask them questions about their own daily activities in school. If they've heard stories before, what do they think they could have done better? And typically, you'll be able to set up a situation where your child will know how to react at different times. We have spoken about strangers today, but we're asking you here, as said properly, not to be a stranger to this show, because we're hoping that you will come back again and again for the content that we have here, because there's so much to gain from being here. Once again, my name is MABEL FOLUKE IRUKERA, and I look forward to sharing other times with you. Subscribe, do not forget, to Byronbee TV, and I'll see you next time when we'll talk about another interesting topic. Thank you very much. Bye. Have you ever wondered if you handle the situation properly? I know I have. Well, you're welcome to SIP. Here, we say it properly. And we're looking forward to having you on each episode as we learn together how to say it properly. I am MABEL FOLUKE IRUKERA. See you then.